Broadcasting on 94.9 FM and worldwide on WADR.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Senegalese President Diomaye Faye repeals judicial action by former President Sarr. Government of Sierra Leone declares national emergency on drug and substance abuse.
It is my solemn duty as your president, acting on the powers conferred on me by the Constitution, to declare a national emergency on drug and substance abuse.
Nigerians express concern over government's approval of significant electricity rate hike. The fate of over 40,000 civil servants in Liberia hangs due to illegal recruitment under George Weah's administration.
While others differ,
but all those people that on the payroll, they are Liberian. So why are you taking Liberian from the payroll?
they said they did not enter the civil service legally.
They want to do that to bring their own people in the systems. So when they cut that money from the bank.
Stay tuned for details of these stories and more.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
Many thanks for joining us and welcome to our listeners in the Gambia, Ghana, and Liberia. We begin in Senegal as President Bassirou Diomaye Faye repeals a number of decrees by his predecessor days after assuming office. Former President Macky Sall had, before his departure, made a number of moves targeting the judiciary, which includes appointing a new president of the nation's Supreme Court. Unsettled with Sall's choice, Diomaye Faye cancelled the decree on April 3, a day after his inauguration. Oge Oberika brings the details in the following report.
President Bassirou Diomaye Faye has rescinded the latest decisions of the High Council of the Judiciary 4 days after the departure of his predecessor, Macky Sall. In a decree dated April 3, 2024, Senegal's new head of state repealed the decision to appoint Abdoulaye Ndiaye as president of the Supreme Court. Ndiaye is to replace the retired Siré Ali Bah. According to the decree, Amadou Fall Ndiaye's assignment to the Church Court of Appeal for health reasons has been cancelled. The appointment of Senabu Ndiaye Jakite as Advocate General to the Supreme Court has also been cancelled, local media report. On March 29, former Senegalese President Macky Sall chaired a final meeting of the High Council of the Judiciary. It is important to note that during this meeting, the former head of state made a number of moves to reorganize the judiciary.
Oge Oberika reporting there. In Guinea, defense lawyers have decided to resume their participation in the upcoming hearings of the trial concerning the massacres of September 28, 2009. This decision comes after they were officially notified of the ruling on the appeal they had lodged before the Court of Appeal of Conakry. The lawyers did not hesitate to denounce what they called the interference of the International Criminal Court in the conduct of this trial. Faced with the refusal of the president of the court to rule on the reclassification of the facts, they do not rule out appealing to the Supreme Court. WADR's Nadia Tete reports.
For 2 weeks, hearings in the case of the events of September 28 have been disrupted due to the absence of defense lawyers. This situation led to the president of the court to threaten to appoint lawyers to defend the accused. Master Pepe Antoine Lamar provided reasons for the boycott as the lawyers accused the International Criminal Court of interfering in the proceedings in violation of Guinean laws. The standoff between the defense lawyers and the court revolves around the reclassification of the facts in the case. Master Lansine Sila announced that they will refer the case to the Supreme Court. Next Monday, if the return of the defense lawyers to the trial is effective, it will mark the beginning of cross-examination of the accused.
WADR's Nadia Tete with that report. Over to Nigeria, where citizens are voicing their concerns regarding the government's recent approval conveyed by the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission (NERC) of an electricity rate increase for consumers in Band A. The vice chairman of NERC, Muslu Oseni, announced the tariff adjustment, raising the rate to 225 naira per kilowatt hour from the existing 66 naira. WADR's Usma Umar in Abuja has the rest of the story.
Oseni had explained that due to insufficient electricity supply hours, some customers in Band A have been reclassified to Band B. The implementation of this order begins immediately, affecting less than 15% of customers within the Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI, sparing those in other bands from the review. However, despite these clarifications, Nigerians are expressing their reservations. First, we hear from Adeyemi Adekunle, an energy expert, on the implications of this latest development.
The issue of this subsidy removal, I'm sure those that follows my activity will also know that I spent the major part of end of Q4 last year and since beginning of this year till now, talking about how unsustainable electricity subsidy, tariff subsidy has been. You know, so we had a situation where billions of dollars. I mean, on the average before, we used to spend about 80 billion to subsidize electricity consumption across the country. But now the figure has gone from 80 billion to about 250 billion per month. You know, and the estimated value for this year alone is about between 1.6 and 2 trillion, depending on what the dollar rate, the foreign exchange rate, is doing.
Some citizens have also been expressing their views on the increase and how it will affect them.
My view is that the federal government should be considerate, think of the masses in the long run in whatever decision they want to take. I just feel government should be fair enough, find a way to cushion the effect of whatever decision or policy they are making.
If the government can sit down and dialogue with its citizenry, I think they'll be able to forge ahead than just increasing the price and not looking at the other side of the household income.
Still, others say the government should have approached the increment differently.
All what the government has mentioned, they are right, but the government ought to have sat down and calculated the multiplier effect of this subsidy removal.
A nation of over 200 million people, Nigerians still depend on less than 5,000 megawatts to power their homes and businesses daily, even though individuals self-generate over 40,000 megawatts. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
In Liberia, the fate of over 40,000 civil servants now hangs in the balance due to the illegal manner in which they were recruited by the last administration of George Weah. More than 67,746 public sector workers are currently on the payroll, spread across 103 spending entities, a situation the new administration described as a burden on the state. WADR's Darlington Pogba reports from Monrovia.
The Director General of the Civil Service Agency, Josiah Joket, said that over 40,000 public sector workers were illegally placed on the government's payroll without processing their personal action notice document. According to him, the situation has blotted the government's payroll, thereby resulting in a monthly wage bill of over $23 million United States dollars, hence the warning.
The payroll is inundated with a huge number of ghosts, unqualified individuals serving in critical positions. The CSA has requested all heads of government spending entities to ensure that employees who were added to the payroll during the period of July 2019 to December 2023 and whose status has not been regularized by the Civil Service Agency work with their respective human resource directors to proceed to the Civil Service Agency and have their personnel action notices properly processed within a grace period of 90 days.
Additionally, the CSA boss noted that more than 10,000 individuals were receiving salaries from the government through a supplementary payroll he described as illegal. Amid the ongoing reforms, Liberians are divided as some see the move as a witch hunt while others differ.
But all those people that are on the payroll, they are Liberians. So why are you taking Liberians from the payroll?
They said they did not enter the civil service legally.
They want to do that to bring their own people in the systems. So when they cut that money from the bank, so I want to say to the government, it's too early.
For me, there's now a witch hunt. If you are not qualified, why should I give you a job? When they 6 years, they were just holding their hands. Go to the bank and just open your account. Start working tomorrow. Why? There's a government. They were now running boss code. So if this government saying that they should go through the proper channel to be re-employed, I don't think there's an issue. I don't think there's a witch hunt.
For now, the government has vowed to create a small and efficient public service and ensure that taxpayers' resources are effectively spent. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, I'm Darlington Pogba in Monrovia.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
The authorities in Niger summoned the Algerian ambassador to the country to protest against violence during the repatriation of migrants. A situation denounced by Niamey indicates that Algiers has identified its repatriation operations for sub-Saharan migrants in an irregular situation in recent days. Among these are men and Nigerians. Sankule Janko has the details.
Niger is currently protesting against Algeria's repatriation of thousands of West African migrants to its territory, with Niamey stating that these operations have escalated in recent days. The Nigerian authorities are particularly condemning the violent nature of these repatriations, which involve irregular sub-Saharan migrants, including many Nigerians. The Nigerian government has reported that during these operations in specific neighborhoods of Tamanrasset city in southern Algeria, the homes of numerous Nigerians were looted by elements of the Algerian police, who seized all valuable items found on the premises. This grave situation has prompted the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs to instruct the Algerian ambassador in Niamey to convey its protest to the highest Algerian authorities. Niamey emphasizes the importance of conducting repatriation operations with respect for the dignity and physical as well as moral integrity of migrants. Since 2014, tens of thousands of irregular migrants from West and Central Africa have been repatriated from Algeria, turning the country into a transit point to Europe. Humanitarian NGOs report that repatriated migrants are often abandoned in the desert at the border with Niger. Despite these allegations, Algiers consistently denies them, attributing them to malicious campaigns.
Sankule Janko reporting there. In Togo, the opposition remains steadfastly opposed to the ongoing postponement of legislative and regional elections. Their dissatisfaction is echoed by civil society, which also expresses its frustration. In response to the delay, they have declared their intention to undertake various actions in the coming days to protest against the postponement of these elections, originally scheduled to occur in 2 weeks. This adjustment of the electoral calendar, as described by the presidency, has enacted anger among opposing groups who were gearing up for the election campaign. And now to Ghana. The independent presidential candidate, Alan John Karim Mitten, has announced a strategic partnership with the National Interest Movement led by former Convention People's Party flag bearer, a leader of the National Interest Movement, Dr. Abu Sankara, ahead of the 2024 elections. This collaboration, operating under the Banda Alliance for Revolutionary Change, was unveiled through a statement released on Thursday. In the statement, Mr. Kari Maten said the primary goal of the ARC is to rally Ghanaians from diverse backgrounds with a particular emphasis on engaging the youth and women to elect the first independent candidate as president of Ghana. In assessing the impact the new alliance could make, political scientist Dr. Atsa Asante tells WADR that the new alliance could push the December general election into a runoff if they can rally Ghanaians to vote for them.
Remember that it's not new. Alliances, we've seen it in this country for a very long time, and it's not new. One party or individual decide to congregate around an idea to, as it were, tie their apron string together to fight for political power. It's not new in Ghanaian politics.
Looking at the movement involved, the Butterfly Movement and the National Interest Movement, will it be impactful?
Looking at the personalities involved, there's no doubt in my mind that we are talking about no less persons than giants of their own rights. There's no doubt that Mr. Alan Chematen is a giant in his own respect, and so can be said about Dr. Abu Sakara. They all are familiar with the issues that confront this country. They are gentlemen of ideas, and they have what it takes to lead any group worth a salt. So I have no doubt in my mind that, yes, they are forced to reckon with. There's no doubt about that.
Do you think that would see an Alan Abu Sakara ticket?
That is what, if you look at it carefully, I would not have any doubt in my mind that one day they will graduate to that end where they will come together and forge ahead. For me, Alan is a giant. If you look at Ashanti region, Central region, Eastern region, I have no doubt in my mind that, look, he can cause a stir there. And Abu Sakara, another fantastic man who has ideas, who can also articulate his ideas clearly. And he has full knowledge of what is happening in this country. So the two, if they are able to tie their apron string together, they can cause an upset. Not upset to win the election, but if they get the support of other political parties and they also perform creditably well, they can also push the election to a second round. And that is, I'm sure, that is their dream.
Dr. Asa Asante, a political scientist in Ghana. You are listening to Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM, Dakar, Senegal. Here is a reminder of our top stories. Senegalese President Diomaye Faye repeals judicial action by former President Sall. Nigerians express concern over government's approval of significant electricity rate hike. The state of over 40,000 civil servants in Liberia hangs due to illegal recruitment under George Weah's administration. Stayed ahead, government of Sierra Leone declares national emergency on drug and substance abuse. We do have the guest interview and sports news. Please stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
The government of Sierra Leone, through President Julius Maada Bio, has declared drug abuse a national emergency. President Maada Bio made a statement in an address to the nation on Thursday. On Wednesday, the country's Vice President, Mohamed Jallo, who is also chairman of the Police Council, instructed that anyone arrested in connection with the Kush cartel should not be granted bail. However, the Sierra Leonean president said his his government is working to dissolve drug trafficking networks in the country.
Our country is currently faced with an existential threat due to the ravaging impact of drugs and substance abuse, particularly the devastating synthetic drug Kush. We are witnessing the destructive consequences of Kush on our country's very foundation, our young people, in spite of our government's effort to stop the proliferation of drugs and substance abuse in Sierra Leone. This deadly Kush, which knows no boundaries of class, ethnicity, gender, or religion, is taking a devastating toll on our communities, tearing apart families and robbing us of our future leaders. The deterioration and alarming mortality rate of our young people due to the addictive use of Kush is no longer acceptable. As a government, we say enough is enough. It is my solemn duty as your president, acting on the powers conferred on me by the Constitution, to declare a national emergency on drug and substance abuse. With this national emergency on drug and substance abuse, we shall broaden the scope of the government task force's work and adopt a multifaceted approach to addressing the increasing Kush epidemic.
Sierra Leonean President Julius Maada Bio.
Politics, analyses on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest interview this afternoon takes us to Liberia, where the fate of 40,000 civil servants hangs in the balance, as the government of President Joseph Boakai said they were illegally employed by the Weah's administration. While former officials of the CDC government see the move as a witch hunt, Boakai's administration described it as a burden on the state. However, Abdullahi Kiatamba, an independent political analyst, expressed the need for the Civil Service Agency to clearly explain the manner in which the over 40,000 citizens were illegally employed by the past government.
I think the service will need to actually lay out a plan that why this is necessary. Look, everybody in this country has always wanted to make sure that it's a removal of ghosting, because what it does, it takes away resources from people who really are workers and they're not getting paid, and goes to people who are actually there illegally. We understand the nature of the problem. So I think they need to clearly identify the nature of the problem, especially now. The previous government, George Weah, was doing the same thing. So I think they need to say, okay, this is where they start. These are the loopholes we saw, and we think there's a work in progress. Government's continuity. If one administration begun the work, you can say we're fighting for it, but we're pushing it differently because different time require different response and intervention. But they have not done that well. And so what they have done is they are basically armed even those conspiracy theories, even those who have legitimate doubts, and those are the conspiracy theory about, okay, where are they going with this? So I think, is it a trigger-happy administrator trying to impress Buakai that, look, I'm doing this for you, but I think the process is not as transparent as I would love to, given the nature of our political environment. This is a very toxic political environment. This is an election that was closely won. The country is evenly divided. You have to be careful. Or else you create the public tension around these issues. And these tensions can be exploited by a political opponent. And so I think the process needs to be more transparent. The process needs to address some of the doubts and concerns, legitimate doubts and concerns. I'm not talking about just mere suspicion that this is a political witch hunt. It's not enough to make it to a justice system, to a mere accusation. But I think they need to be more intentional about how they're proceeding. And they let open up the process in a way that no one would think they're being targeted. This experiment in self-governance has gone through a lot of stages, wars, conflict, coup, protests. And so we hope that this process will grow and will sustain ourselves. And this new transition, we want to make sure it's meeting the peace, it's secure. I do believe that the civil service agency has to basically do cleanup, and I think it is part of that whole reform system. All of our systems are broken and need serious reform. But I also think the way it is being handled, it sends the wrong message. It sends the wrong signal. And I think in these kind of sensitive matters, where the country is basically, it's a poor country, where a lot of people are basically living in deprivation, you have to be careful how you make them hopeless. Because even supplemental salaries are something that is small money, maybe 100, 200, 300, is something that they can survive on. But to take that out of them, we'll find an alternative solution to their problems. The government look like it is oppressing them, or it is depriving them of their survival, of their daily prayer. And so I think it is important how they handle it. They have to remove all the suspicion of the fear of a political witch hunt. And I think it's important. I think one of the things they have not done well is to explain their process and make a strong case why this is necessary. When you frame the issue as good for the public, it's difficult for the public to oppose what is good for them. But when you frame the issue as, without clearly stating exactly what do you hope to achieve and why this is necessary, and you remove all doubts around the political intentions, I think will be good. I think they have not done all of that.
Abdullahi Kiatamba is an independent political analyst in Liberia. Let's now join Sankule Janko for the sports news.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The final hurdle in the race towards the two places reserved for Africa in the women's football tournament of the Paris 2024 Olympic will have to be overcome starting on Friday, 5 April as Morocco, Zambia, Nigeria and South Africa commence the final round of qualifiers. The Levi Wanawasa Stadium in Douala sees Zambia playing host to Morocco. This will be the third North versus South meeting between the two sides from the opposite ends of the continent, as the two sides met previously in a double-legged affair that went 6-2 in favor of the Zambians on both occasions. However, a lot has changed in the Moroccan camp since the two defeats, with the arrival of the World Cup winning coach George Vilda, who have become a more structured and formidable side under Vilda. It will not be easy against the Zambians, who tasted Olympics euphoria in Tokyo and will be hoping the likes of Barbara Banda and Rachel Kundananji will guide them to victory. On the same day, an all-time African Women's Football Classic awaits in Abuja as the Moshood Abiola National Stadium plays host to Nigeria against South Africa. With a record 11 total CAF Africa Cup of Nations titles to their name, the Super Falcons are looking at adding a fourth Olympics qualification to their impressive record according to CAF official website. The Randy Waldrum-led side will rely heavily on the talent of Chimaka Nadoze, Rasidat Ajibed, and Asisat Ashwola, amongst other hosts of superstars. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
Thank you, Sankule Janko, for the sports news. We have come to the end of this edition of Newslink from West Africa Democrats Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Krista Mukidi and to Maudo Juf for the technical assistance. To interact with us via our social media platforms, X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook, WADR English Service. Coming up at the bottom of the hour is our governance and security program in the Sahel. I am Augustine Cully. Good afternoon.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 104.3 FM, New Me FM 94.